Welcome to our channel. Ready for another eerie Australian paranormal story? Well, let's go.
The Swaggy and the Serpent's Eye. The sun, a malicious eye in the vast, unforgiving sky, beat down on William Bill Jenkins. His shoulders ached under the weight of his swag, a rolled canvas containing his meager life, a worn blanket, a billy can, a hunk of dry bread, and a precious tobacco tin, now nearly empty. It was 1932, and the Great Depression had cast its long, hungry shadow across Australia. For men like Bill, the only work was the endless trudge from farm to farm, hoping for a day's labour, a feed, or a place to lay their head. He was a swaggy, a wanderer, one of thousands, swallowed by the dusty moor of the bush. His boots, once sturdy, were now split and flapping, each step raising a puff of red dust. His throat was a sandpaper wasteland, and the relentless flies were a torment. He'd been walking for 3 days, following a faint track that promised a billabong, a waterhole, a chance at respite. Hope was a flicker, easily snuffed out by the vast indifference of the land, but it was all he had left. He was heading for the mythical Emerald Waters, a place he'd heard whispered about in dusty pubs, a billabong so clear and deep it was said to hold ancient secrets. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples, a shimmer in the distance caught Bill's eye. A line of gnarled gum trees, denser and greener than any he'd seen in days, hinted at water. With a surge of adrenaline, he pushed his aching legs harder. The air grew cooler, carrying the faint, earthy scent of stagnant water and decaying leaves. He burst through a thicket of wattles and stopped dead. Before him lay the Emerald Waters. It was indeed magnificent, a circular pool, startlingly green in the fading light, fringed with weeping paperbarks whose branches dipped into the placid surface. It was indeed magnificent, a circular pool, startlingly green in the fading light. The water was so still it reflected the sky with perfect clarity, a mirror to another world. He knelt, about to plunge his face into the cool liquid, when a disturbance in the center of the billabong made him pause. A ripple, too large for a fish, too deliberate for the wind. Then, slowly, a massive, dark shape began to emerge from the depths. Bill's blood ran cold. He had heard the stories, the chilling whispers around campfires, of the Bunyip, the water monster of Aboriginal legend, a devil, an evil spirit, a demon, a creature of dread that pulled the unwary into its murky domain. He'd dismissed them as old wives' tales, meant to scare children. But now, fear, cold and sharp, pierced him to the bone. The creature was immense. Its body, slick and dark, was vaguely serpentine, but with a thick, powerful torso that seemed to ripple with unseen muscle beneath the water's surface. Its head, held high, was strangely featureless at first glance, like a smooth, dark stone, until 2 eyes, large, luminous, and an impossibly deep, mesmerizing gold, opened and fixed directly on him. They held a terrifying, ancient intelligence, an abyss of cold, predatory hunger that seemed to pluck at the very threads of his soul. Bill couldn't move. His muscles, which moments ago had yearned for rest, were now locked in an agonizing paralysis. The Bunyip's golden eyes were like twin suns, drawing him in, stripping him of his will. A low, guttural moan, a sound that seemed to come from the very depths of the earth, rumbled from the creature's throat. It was a sound that promised oblivion, a siren's call to the drowned. A strange, hallucinatory fog began to creep into Bill's mind. The world around him faded, the vibrant greens of the billabong, the soft purples of the sky, all receding into a hazy blur. Only the Bunyip's eyes remained, growing larger, more intense, until they filled his entire vision. He felt a profound sense of peace, a seductive calm that was terrifying in its intensity. It whispered promises of an end to his struggles, an escape from the relentless hunger, the gnawing anxiety of the depression. Just step into the cool water, it seemed to say. Let go. He found himself slowly, almost involuntarily, rising to his feet. His legs, no longer aching, moved with a dreamlike fluidity towards the water's edge. He knew intellectually that this was wrong, that he was walking to his death. But the knowledge was distant, muffled by the sweet, dark song playing in his mind. The Bunyip's massive head swayed gently, its golden eyes never leaving his. It was enjoying the hunt, the slow, inevitable reel. Just as his worn boots touched the soft, muddy bank, a sharp, metallic tang in his mouth jolted him. It was the taste of stale tobacco, and with it, a flash of memory. His father, a hard but honest man, teaching him to roll his first cigarette, impressing upon him the value of a day's honest work, and the importance of never giving up, no matter how hard life got. "Never let 'em see you quit, son," his father's gruff voice echoed in his mind. The memory, a raw, human anchor, was enough to break the Bunyip spell for a fleeting instant. The hypnotic calm shattered, replaced by a fresh wave of primal terror. He gasped, sucking in a lungful of air, and stumbled back. The Bunyip's eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of annoyance, perhaps, at the sudden resistance. The low moan intensified, a forceful command now, demanding his return. Bill scrambled backward, tripping over his own feet, heart hammering against his ribs. He felt the insidious pull of the creature's gaze trying to reclaim him, but the memory of his father, of every hardship he'd overcome, fue la desperata defiance. He snatched up a fallen branch, a pathetic weapon against such a monstrous foe, but it was something. The Bunyip, sensing his struggle, changed tactics. Instead of a direct hypnotic assault, it began to whisper, not with sound, but directly into his mind. "Why do you resist, Swaggy? The road is long, the hunger unending. Your bones will dry in the sun, your hopes turn to dust. Here, there is peace. Here, there is an end to suffering. Come, I offer you rest, eternal solace." The voice was seductive, playing on every fear and exhaustion that had plagued Bill for months. He saw vivid images in his mind's eye, his empty belly, his tattered clothes, the cold looks of farmers who had no work to offer. The depression was a monster too, one that had chased him to this very Billabong. Was this truly any worse than slow starvation, than the gnawing loneliness? But then, another image flashed. The face of a young woman, Sarah, from his hometown. He'd promised to return to her when he found work, when he had something to offer. Her smile, her bright, hopeful eyes, were a beacon against the Bunyip's darkness. He had a reason to live, a promise to keep. A sudden sharp pain flared in his stomach, not just hunger, but a deep, burning ache, as if something within him was trying to claw its way out. The Bunyip's whispers grew louder, more insistent, twisting his despair into a tangible agony. He realized the creature wasn't just pulling his mind, it was trying to drain his very spirit, his life force, to feed its ancient hunger. Bill stumbled backward, away from the Billabong, away from the seductive whispers and the golden eyes. He needed to escape, but the creature was relentless, its unseen influence a tangible weight on his mind. He looked around frantically. The paperbark trees, with their peeling bark, suddenly seemed to offer a possible, if desperate, solution. He remembered an old bushman's trick for escaping a charging bull. Climb something, anything, no matter how flimsy. He didn't know if it would work against a Bunyip, but it was his only chance. He lunged for the nearest paperbark, its trunk surprisingly thick. He began to claw his way up, ignoring the pain of bark tearing at his hands, driven by sheer, desperate will. The Bunyip let out a frustrated, guttural roar that vibrated through the air, shaking the leaves on the tree. It rose higher out of the water, revealing more of its massive body, thick, scaly, and powerful. Its head, now fully exposed, showed not just the golden eyes, but also a glimpse of a wide, toothless mouth that could engulf a man whole. As Bill clung to the tree, its bark surprisingly slick, the Bunyip made a lunge. Its neck stretched, impossibly long, and its head snapped at his foot. He felt the wind of its movement, the chilling spray of water. He scrambled higher, but the creature's whispers intensified, now laced with genuine anger and a horrifying amusement. "Foolish mortal, you cannot escape. The water is my domain. The land will not protect you from me. Come, little morsel, return to your destined peace." Just as his grip began to slip, a sudden sharp crack echoed through the bush. It wasn't the Bunyip. It was the sound of a rifle shot. Bill clung to the paperbark, disoriented. The Bunyip recoiled with an outraged hiss, its golden eyes darting towards the source of the shot. Through the deepening twilight, a figure emerged from the dense bush, an old Aboriginal elder, his face a roadmap of ancient wisdom, a battered old rifle cradled in his arms. The elder, his gaze unwavering, met the Bunyip's furious stare. He spoke not to Bill, but to the creature, in a language that was ancient and resonant, a string of guttural chants and melodic tones that seemed to hold power. The Bunyip, though clearly angered, paused, its massive body coiling slightly as if in a standoff. The hypnotic influence on Bill instantly vanished, replaced by a wave of dizzying relief. The elder fired again, not at the creature, but into the water beside its head. The shot wasn't meant to kill, but to assert dominance, to break the ancient spell. "Leave this man, spirit of the water," the elder commanded in broken English, his voice firm. "His path is not to your depths. The old ways are not for those who have forgotten respect." The Bunyip let out another frustrated moan, a sound of ancient grievance and unwilling retreat. It slowly, reluctantly, began to sink back into the Billabong, its golden eyes burning with defiance, until they too disappeared beneath the dark green surface. The water settled, becoming still once more, as if the monstrous creature had never been there. Bill scrambled down the tree, his body shaking, tears of sheer relief streaming down his grimy face. The elder helped him to the ground, offering him a small flask of water and a piece of dried kangaroo meat. "You are almost taken, young man," the elder said, his eyes filled with a quiet knowing. The Bunyip preys on despair. Your heart was heavy, but you held on to something good inside. Bill, still speechless, could only nod. He felt utterly drained, but alive, truly alive, in a way he hadn't in years. The encounter with the Bunyip, the sheer terror, the fight for his soul, had stripped away the layers of weariness and despair that the depression had placed upon him. He had faced a monster, and he had survived. He had remembered why he fought. He stayed with the elder for a few days, learning the ways of the bush, listening to stories of the land and its ancient spirits. He learned about resilience, about respect for the earth, and about the deep wisdom that lay hidden beneath the surface of things. When he finally set off again, his swag felt lighter, his stride more purposeful. The road was still long, and the depression still raged. But Bill Jenkins was no longer just a swaggy trying to survive. He was a man who had stared into the abyss and pulled himself back, a man who carried a potent story and a renewed, unbreakable will to return to Sarah and to find a new path forward, no matter how hard the journey. He had faced his deepest fears, and in doing so, he had found something far more valuable than gold: himself.
Hope you enjoyed another eerie tale of the Australian outback. Please like and subscribe for more.